I'm an average man. I like a drink with my mates. I go and watch the football on the weekend with my dad. My journey started when I was 2 Pints Deep. 6 years ago next Thursday, so a week today, my mum passed away. And sort of a year and a bit after my mum, I think it was, we found out that my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, was diagnosed age 25 with cancer, and we thought, oh my God, here we go again. My initial thought when thinking about myself in that situation, am I going to spiral again? With lads, as soon as you say it's a mental health event, they won't turn up. They don't want to label themselves as someone that needs that support. I went from one of the most social industries, you're always in an office, there's a sales floor, there's a buzz, to on my own in my bedroom. You can feel lonely in a room full of your mates, but you aren't lonely because they are there. I think there's 3 questions you can ask people around you to help understand their behaviours when you need to support them. What are your stress triggers? What do you do when you're stressed? And then number 3 is,
Luke, welcome to the Driven Podcast. How you doing?
thank you. Yeah, really good. Thank you, mate. Yeah, busy period at the moment, which I'm sure we'll dig into it over the course of the chat that we have. But yeah, really good and excited to be on.
Good. So if I was to ask you that again, how are you actually doing?
Yeah, busy, but there's elements to being busy that have their negative effects that I guess that you don't really talk about in the first time you ask someone how they are. And we speak about this a lot, like the second "how are you" is always the one that actually matters, right? And yeah, stressed, tired, motivated, but everyone has their stuff going on in the background that only that second "how are you" sometimes gets to, doesn't it? So
I wanted to get
I
it
like
in
that
early.
you did that. You caught me off guard.
I wanted to set the tone because
Exactly.
I love what you do, and I think there's a massive need for it. And that second "how are you" is something that doesn't normally happen, but normally triggers a big conversation after it. And I want this to be that conversation, where we get right into things and talk about, what you're doing, but also emotions that come with that, and sort of doing what you preach, I suppose.
Yeah.
But before we go into that, this podcast is called Driven. We've had a lot of business people, a lot of coaches, and you run a charity, which is slightly different, but you're still driven towards a massive purpose.
Yeah.
So how would you define driven to you?
I would define driven of movement with purpose in a given direction. I don't think it has to be always goal-oriented. You can still be driven without knowing what that end goal or that next goal quite is yet, but you're moving with a purpose. And that's what I define as, because there's so many points in our life, whether it's I've felt driven but without a goal sometimes, like towards the end of school, looking at university options, knowing that I want to drive forward and go into this, but not knowing what this goal looks like. Same with football careers in the past. Like, I wanted to get fit, but I don't know how fit I want to get before the season starts. And I think we can often, in such the society that it is today, where we see these end goals and these things on Instagram that we're like, oh, I'd love to do that. Yeah. We can get sort of blocked and kind of disorientated by the actual journey. And I think being driven is all about the journey for me.
I love that. We talk, funny enough, quite a lot about the journey on these episodes so far. How would you introduce yourself?
I would introduce myself as a northern lad. Originally, I've lived everywhere, but I'm a northern lad. I'm an average man. I like a drink with my mates. I go and watch the football on the weekend with my dad. I don't exercise as much as I should or could, but I think that connects me with the audience that we work with as well, and that's some of the places there are where I'm happiest and found a nice balance. So I'd say an average lad. But of course, on a professional level, if I was to introduce LinkedIn Luke, it'd be a little bit different. Founder and CEO of 2 Pints Deep, which is a suicide prevention charity with a focus on men's mental health. So there's many different ways to introduce myself, and I definitely start with who I am, because that's the most important thing for me, and I think shines through in the work that we do.
100%, but that's what people buy into, isn't it?
Yeah. people buy off people,
100%.
and that's the world I think we'll always live in. And what, like, I know AI and all this type of stuff that's coming in and be like people replacing people, but that element of trust and a handshake and eye contact and getting to know someone and working through issues together with people, it's invaluable, and it's not going away anytime soon, I think.
No, I agree, definitely. And so you touched on Two Pints Deep. That's what's driving you at the moment. But what is Two Pints Deep for people that don't know?
Yeah, so Two Pints Deep is a suicide prevention charity. We are a newly formed official charity. So we started as a community in February 2022. So we've been around a little bit. That was just an Instagram community back then. In 2023, late 2023, we changed that into sort of, we took it into real life. So we started exercise clubs, so run clubs in Manchester and London, which then brought our followers a chance to come and meet people in a sort of similar area. And now I quit my job last May to try and take it full time into becoming a charity, which is very difficult, very back and forth with certain higher beings and a lot of red tape, a lot of questions you need to answer, especially when you're called Two Pints. But we got full charity status for UK, England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales in February this year. So 5 months into full charity, I guess, structure, and it's been really good so far.
Yeah. What was that? Because I've been through a similar process. We've got our own charity as well, and dealing with the Charities Commission can be a challenge.
Yeah.
As you know, what was it like when you got that rubber stamp of approval and you was official?
I was actually in having a coffee when I got it, and I was with a friend, and I just there was that overpour of emotion, to be honest. I was very emotional, eyes teared up, did have a little cry, not afraid to admit that. But also then comes the feeling, like I've done something now. Yeah. Like we're etched. That number's not going away. Like we are and always will be a charity unless something major goes wrong, which I'm sure it won't. But also there was an immense sense of pride that, and I'm sure you felt this as well, that you've created something that's gonna, if you do it right, can outlive you. And when you talk about like legacy and what you spend all this hard work creating, we've got that now. And if we can set it up and do it right and run it right and make sure it is long term, then it's going to outlive me and continue to help people when I'm gone. And that type of like feeling was what brought the emotion, I think, really.
Yeah, I mean, so purpose driven, isn't it? It really gives you that sense of fulfillment, even probably before you've started. It's official now. We can really get going and do what we want to do. But men's mental health is obviously a well talked about thing, and I think the work that you guys do is great because it's slightly different to what's spoken about. It's not your sort of conventional charity, if you like, which I think is fantastic. But before we go into that, where did it come from?
Yeah, so I think Two Pints Deep has become a child of my own story, really, and my own struggles, my own realization of what we were missing in society when I looked for help. So 6 years ago next Thursday, so a week today, my mum passed away. And I was a young lad at the time living in Australia. I'd come back for the final week of my mum's life because she was about to go into some life prolonging therapy that she didn't quite make. And I hadn't set up the right structure for what was about to happen in my life. I had friends, but not friends that I would get deep with in conversation. I had never really been through anything in terms of life changing that I'd used vocabulary or known how to get across my emotions. I'd never really been I'd been in a relationship before, a long-term relationship, but not really got to the depths of feelings and that type of stuff a lot. So this threw me when grief hit and I didn't know how to act, what to do, what to say. I'd always been the joker of the family, the joker of the friendship group, the happy-go-lucky lad, and I thought the best thing I can do is just try and be that. carry on like nothing's gone wrong, find your comfort zone again. And my comfort zone was humour and pretending like nothing had happened. Not good for anyone, but especially not good for me. So I built a lot up over the next sort of 6 to 9 months, went on my own sort of journeys of social anxiety, depression, gambling habits that kind of grew in me as ways to, I guess, feel emotion or feel endorphins that I wasn't getting from normal life anymore. A misuse of my relationship with alcohol. I'd use it to make me feel better in situations rather than for what its purpose should be in terms of like socializing and having a right balance with it all. Came away from that and managed to have a conversation in the end, kind of a little mini breakdown, I'd call it really, with some friends, and found out they were struggling too, and none of us were talking about like any of our stuff. And I thought that's when something sort of dropped, the penny kind of dropped with me, and I was like, God, like we talk so much on group chats, we talk so much about nonsense, but we don't talk about the stuff that matters. And then I came away from that and was sort of driven to create something for the lads who felt like me, who didn't know where to go, didn't know what to say, but were struggling in silence. And my silence and my journey started when I was 2 pints deep, when I'd had a few drinks and it felt a little bit better to talk. And what we're trying to do with this community, or the awareness that we initially wanted to spread, is it's okay to talk, but breaking that barrier. And we want to give men the confidence to be able to speak about their mental health or things that are worrying them without the need of those 2 pints, but there's still the same feeling of confidence, the same feeling of like nothing's going to be prescribed to them, and the same feeling of I guess a safe space, really.
And so for someone who struggled to feel emotion and probably understand their own feelings, how did you realise that you didn't have the support network around you? What was that moment? Was that, through any sort of therapy or anything like that, or?
It was gradual realisation of I only really realised it when I looked back on it. To be honest, I was stuck in a certain hole, a certain sense of how I was feeling during that sort of 9-month period. But looking back on it, when I'd started to have those conversations with my mates and feel the weight lifted, I was like, God, I wasn't doing this. And there were certain things when I look back that I'd convinced myself that I could deal with what was going on myself. So I'd said, everyone, this happens to everyone when they've lost someone. I kind of put it all on the grief and was like, let's just get the first year done, first Christmas without mum, first birthday without mum, and just kind of attached it onto that, the way that I was feeling, tried to make sense of it and attach it to something. And I also was afraid of the solutions. I was afraid to go to therapy. I didn't understand what it was at the time, but it seemed very clinical. It seemed very invasive. I wasn't ready for that. I couldn't talk to my mates, let alone someone that is going to ask me how I feel about certain things, and I don't have the vocabulary ready to answer that question. So I really wasn't ready for therapy. So I didn't want to be put in a position where I then seek help or talk to someone and they say, have you tried this? Because then I'd have to go through with it. So I was kind of protecting myself from what lay ahead. And looking back now, it's because I didn't understand what it was, rather than that it was always going to be good for me when I did have it, and I did have it in the end. But I was too scared of what it was at the time from where I was.
Yes, you almost put that sort of barrier up to protect your.
And we're good at that, blokes, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 pints deep and talking about it. So you went through that process of grief.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start to sort of come out of it? Was it when you started talking to your friends and then realising actually, people have got a lot to talk about, and then you started helping each other, or?
Yeah, we all got kind of addicted to these deep conversations. And I'll be honest with you, they did happen a lot when we were 2 pints deep, and that's like the element of them feeling comfortable as well. And we'd go out for a couple of pints, and after that second pint, you'd be like, oh, let a few things out. But then what I started to notice is the conversation would start when you're 1 pint deep in a few weeks, and then and it kind of evolved within our friendship group to be something that we didn't need to be at the pub or in a certain environment to be having these conversations. And it really kind of hit home that these things were working for me when we had another, so I don't want to call it a tragedy, but some bad news within the family. And sort of a year and a bit after my mum, I think it was, maybe 18 months, we found out that my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, who they weren't married at the time, but they are now, was diagnosed age 25 with an incurable form of cancer. And we thought, oh my God, here we go again. And I thought, my initial thought when thinking about myself in that situation was, am I going to spiral again? Like, am I going to go into the place like I was after mum with bad news and hitting hard and having to deal with it? Going into hospitals, is that going to trigger me? Like all this type of stuff, and supporting the C word, like that word cancer, it just takes you back to that area. And is it going to like throw up unresolved issues that I had? But what I found in dealing with that is that I had my support networks there. So I then had a complete different experience of dealing with bad news. And I was like, oh God, like, yeah, I've dealt with this a lot better than I did the previous news. What I thought I was doing in supporting my dad and my sister by not causing a fuss and trying to cheer them up after mum, I was so much better able to support them through this because I was communicative, I was open, I was able to listen, I got deep, and all of that was kind of was learnt from the conversations that I had with my friends. So I kind of had that recognition with the friends, but then saw it in action in real life, and I was like, this actually makes a difference, and I'm a better person and better able to support myself and those around me because I've got the stuff in place.
Yeah, I think what you touched on there is so true, because it's not just about how you feel. You was able to support your family better, and you felt better yourself. So it's all round beneficial for being able to understand them feelings, comprehend them, talk about them. And not enough people, I feel, do that still.
No, we're not taught to. We're not.
No.
Unfortunately, it comes through experience, or if your families have done it when you were young and you've been brought up around it, then you kind of learn it through that too. It's learn experience, or you learn it the hard way. But it's not taught at all. I think I went to an all-boys school, a grammar school, so it wasn't one of those paid ones. It was, I had to take an exam to get in. But I know when I always think back to school, a good boy was someone who was quiet and got on with things rather than... I was never a bad lad at school, but I was really verbal and I loved the conversation, and I was... group sessions, I'd thrive, and I'd always get told off for probably talking too much, and I was labelled bad for that.
Yeah.
Whereas talking and conversing and listening shouldn't, I don't think, be labelled as that. I look back and think that's lazy teaching now, because especially as lads, we need to find better ways of promoting those talking environments from the school all the way up, and listening and learning how to better communicate. So I think there's certain stuff looking back that has maybe that caused that initial reaction to what happened to me, of like shutting up and getting on with it, because I thought that was the right thing to do. It's what I was told to do as a young lad.
I think the school system is flawed in so many ways, because it doesn't really develop you and show you how to become, a responsible adult who can live life and go through all these things. You do want to be able to communicate your feelings and understand them, and so that just wasn't allowed for you, was it?
No. And I think how that differs with young females, they go through something early on in their lives that they have to talk about, that they have to learn about. It's vulnerable in terms of how their body changes a lot earlier than ours does. And that they have these classes, they discuss. As soon as they have those classes, it's boys out the room.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be here. We'll put a video on in the next room for you lot, because they have to learn about this, because it's happening right now. And I think that builds skills for them, listening to other people, listening to the other vulnerable experiences, learning about themselves, their body, how it affects their feelings, their hormones. And we never got similar opportunities, and that's not me saying one should be cut and the other should be, but we should be learning about our stuff, or I should have learned about my stuff and how my body changes, and how my mind can change, and also be discussing this with other lads that can then, I guess, brew these skills of conversation that maybe we missed out on, or I definitely did at school.
Yeah. So what you're saying there is it's deeper than the body changing and hormones and things like that. It's being able to communicate how you're feeling, what's happening in your life, and what you're going through, isn't it?
Yeah, and being vulnerable, and also learning the skills of listening to people around you be vulnerable as well. That I think sometimes us lads don't. We wave it off with humour, or we immediately turn to banter because we don't know how to deal with the situation. Whereas if we'd have been in more situations and exposed to it a little bit more from an earlier age, we may be able to understand it a little bit more. So there's a lot of flaws, and it's a different generation. When I was brought up, I'm 29 now, and it's a long time since those school days. But I hope that we're encouraging more conversations in schools these days.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's needed, especially in the way that the world's going. But so going back to 2 Pints Deep, so you got started 2022, you said, and the idea was develop, a community. How did that start, and what was the idea? Where did you want to go with it?
I'll be honest, the idea was to start a podcast.
Okay.
So our first post was like, I'm going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
But it's the reaction to our first post that changed it all, I think. So I'd been umming and ahhing over posting this for ages, and I'd had the idea and all the graphics ready for months, but not posted it. And for me, it was important. And my cousin Callum, who is a genius when it comes to graphics and creative, helps me create the creative for it. And what was important for me was, if I want to create something relatable, and that's what I think a community that talks about something vulnerable needs to be. But it's got to look good as well. So initial thoughts like, we've got to get this creative right, because it can hit the right mark, it can say the right things, but people wouldn't post the stuff on their stories unless it looks good.
Of course. You've got that shareability.
Exactly. It's got to be shareable. So we worked hard on that, and then I posted my first post just with a few home truths about myself. Like I said at the start, I'm an average lad, and this is for the average lad to feel like they're part of the journey as well. And then that initial post got 23,500 likes on Instagram, and we grew from 0 followers to 5,000 followers in the first 7 days, just organically, from people sharing it on their story. And I was like, oh my God. Like, now I've got people actually that are listening to, ready to listen to this podcast. So
what was that feeling like?
I was shit scared, to be honest, at the start, because I had a full-time job.
Yeah.
I was getting messages from lads being like, I get this so much, or opening up, who wanted to open up just because of the concept. I was like, this is brilliant, but also, well, I don't think I'm ready for this, or to take all this on. So from there, it kind of grew into this anonymous messaging. Message me, I've been through it, and let's see if we can signpost you to what you can do next. What would my advice be, without being so clinical? We had over 150 men message in the first 12 months of starting a conversation to be like, I feel like this, what should I do?
Yeah.
And I wasn't giving them advice to be like, this is how you, because I'm not educated enough in that sphere to be like, this is what you should do. But what I could do is empathize with them and share my experience and talk to them about different ways they can start a conversation. Who's the best person to reach out to? It might not be your partner at the time. It might be someone in your friendship group who's maybe been through something similar, that might be the first person who's best to reach out to. So we ended up just having lots of different conversations, and it's kind of evolved from there to we knew that it was going to be more than just a podcast, and we started envisioning it more like a brand and a movement than a charity. And we continue to view it as that in a lot of senses.
Okay. And at what point did it start, go from feeling like, you set up this page on a community, actually, this is a mission here and we're going to build this, what you just said. What was the changing point there?
First public speaking gig, maybe.
Okay.
I think it was actually with Social Chain, who Stephen Bartlett's agency in Manchester. or old agency, should I say, but he helped set it up. And I was a bit like, whoa, like, why do they want to? I had someone in my network that saw what we'd started, and they were like, oh, would you fancy coming and talking to our staff at lunchtime? And I was like, sure, I'll put a PowerPoint presentation together. Like, let's see what we can do. Like, I'd never done anything like that before. And I thought the best thing I can do is just go in and tell my story, and went in and told my story and came away from that. And the response was like amazing. People came away from that presentation like, people need this. Like, this is really important. Like, your story is really impactful. I'm still in touch with some people that were in that room today, and who I never met before walking in there. Yeah. One of who has been a kind of life coach for me in certain parts of my life and has set up his own sort of helpful space, Seb Randall. But we met in that room, and that was the first time that I thought, maybe this is more than just an Instagram page, if that's how a group of creatives in an office reacted to one PowerPoint presentation that I'd never done before. And I'm a big believer in, as much as right thing, right person. And I do think that something like this, I've got the story, the drive, the passion, but also the grounded feet to take it forward. 100%. Like I'll always say I'm an average lad. I'm from a working class, born in a working class place up in Lancashire called Chorley. Like, I'm very much feet on ground rather than head in clouds. And I think when it comes to suicide prevention, someone needs to be looking at that, because highest areas of suicide consistency in the UK, Northeast, Northwest, Wales, Midlands, and it's hard. It's sometimes easy to get stuck in this London sphere of, I can create a big movement here and affect a lot of people, but London's the lowest area of suicide in the UK, and it needs someone, I think, in this space to be really like, no, we need to affect the areas that need it most to see the effects on those statistics. So I do believe now, it's taken a long while to be honest, the confidence, but I believe I'm the right person to try and push this on for the area we want to work in.
But I love that you say that. You need that confidence, because you've got a big drive for a big purpose here. And so you're doing anything in those areas? I know you said you've got Run Club that you do one in London and Manchester. Are you doing anything in any other areas in the UK at the minute? So
this is where our next kind of sphere of what 2 Pints Deep is opens up. And at the moment, it's still me officially part-time on this, and no one full-time yet. So we're still like building the whole structure of how we are. But the next setup is, once we get more people in to help out, will be free to attend events all around the UK. And these will be launch type events, exercise type events. But mental health will always be the secondary focus. What we've noticed is with lads, as soon as you say it's a mental health event, they won't turn up. They don't want to go. They don't want to label themselves as someone that needs that support, or a lot of people don't. The lads that need it most need something else. So we'll put on free to attend gigs around the UK. We'll put on free to attend like sports events that you can come and try yoga for the first time, try ice baths for the first time, which 35, 40 quid. Since when was that, to just sit in ice for like 10 minutes? Like, mind boggles. But we need to remove the barriers for men and wellness, I think, all around the UK. But we need to do it we need to look at each area, each geography, each location in a different light to find the problems rooted within there. Because if you go up to the Northeast, you could put on a brilliant event in a great venue, but if it's not accessible, if it's not on a bus route, if it's not on a train route, if it's people don't have cars, how are they getting there? There's a lot more to think about when it comes to getting people in the support that they need. So a lot of human behaviour studied. Where do people go? Let's go and meet them there. Which is why pubs, football stadiums, rugby stadiums.
These are all the things you've been doing already, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's why we'll continue to occupy and work from spaces that men already gather, rather than to ask them to come to somewhere alien. So in answer to your question, free to attend events will be rolled out across the UK over the next 12 months in different locations, and hopefully spark some commonality between the people that attend. But also, we are a signposting charity, so we're not going to offer services at these events, but we'll invite people down that do, like local run clubs, local support charities that offer talking circles, like your Andy's Man Club, that are so well expanded now around the UK to give people support. Your talk clubs, anything that can give people support in the local area, we'll put on the events to start the conversation, and we'll show you where you can go to continue that conversation in your local area.
And do you think you ever get to the stage where you offer them services, or will you be more of a awareness charity that just stays signposted?
We'll be awareness into action. So everything up to how I view it is like if you start 0% to 100%, we won't do that final 10% ever, I don't think. And especially with how we're named, I don't want us to be. 2 Pints Deep is never the answer.
Yeah.
2 pints is never the answer. We're part of the journey. We might be a kickstart, but let's take you to places that you can go and complete that journey and really find fulfillment in other things. I think it's, and what we've noticed, especially in my journey and other journeys of lads around the UK, is that these places exist. These last final 10% solutions exist, but there's so many holes in the journey to get to them that lads aren't reaching them. Whether it's confidence issues, like me, I didn't want to go to therapy. Whether it's education, I didn't know what therapy was. Whether it's transport issues, like there's so many gaps that someone just solely needs to concentrate on the journey to help support the charities and communities that exist in that final 10% in the solution category. And that's what we're going to do.
If anything, that's the most important bit, because the amount of men that go to that final 10% is probably such a small percent of men that actually need the help, isn't it? Like you say, they haven't got the education, they haven't got the awareness, they don't know, or they haven't got the confidence. Yeah.
And the amount of people that then maybe are desperate and step foot into that final 10%, but the experience isn't great or it's not quite right for them, come back and then fall through the gaps again. Is someone needs to be there to be like, okay, that didn't work, but here's 5 other things that you could try in a similar vein in your area, or have you tried this, or let me introduce you to this person. And there needs to be more gaps filled in the journey, and that allows us to also work alongside these charities, alongside these communities. And for me, there is no one size fits all. If you try and fix this problem by yourself, you're not going to do it. We need to band together to fix this problem of male suicide in general, but getting on top of male suicide is a big factor and a big problem, I think, within the UK.
Yeah, I've seen that firsthand. So I'm not sure if we spoke about this, but I've been through therapy 4 or 5 years ago and still continue to do it every now and again. And I've recommended it to friends who have gone and not quite clicked with that person, but then have not tried someone else because therapy doesn't work for me. I was very lucky, I think, that the first person I went to got me and it was fantastic. But like you say, if they've got somewhere to go back to, try this or try that, I just think it's a massive game changer. It's going to help so many more people, isn't it? But you mentioned earlier you quit your job to work on this.
Yeah.
What was your job? What was you doing before this?
So I've not always been a good bloke. No, I'm joking. I was working in recruitment, which I know has its bad name. But I learned so much in recruitment, to be honest. Saw into a lot of early stage businesses. Learned how to speak to high level, like C-suite corporates in a lot of senses to help them find people. And kind of, I spoke to people day in, day out. And as a recruiter, not only do you run through their CV, but you run through their life, because you get to the point of them accepting a job. Sometimes it involves moving location. It involves getting a new house. It involves a whole new process for someone doing the school run for their kids. And it's I know all the recruiters probably say this, but it is a lot more than just matching a job to a CV. And I was predominantly working in the Yorkshire and North East area. That was my kind of geography and location that I work with businesses in. And I heard so many stories, and people saw my LinkedIn when they were looking in. And we had actually so many chats while I was a recruiter about 2 Pints Deep and what I was doing on the side and stuff like that. So it opened my eyes a little bit to the average man problems and what to take into account. when speaking to people like this. So it taught me so much recruitment, and yeah, I'm grateful for the career that I had in it, the 2.5 year career. And
yeah, so it gives you a lot of skills with communicating as well.
Mm-hmm.
But since you set this up, you've had to become a marketer, which is a bloody good one as well.
Thank you.
Content creator, public speaker. What's been the most enjoyable thing that you've had to learn, or that you hadn't done before?
I didn't realise I was creative. I'd never found something to, like, I guess, tickle that creative itch in me. I've always, I love a dad joke. Like, and as mad as mad as that sounds, it gets you thinking about like certain words and like wordplay, and we now put that into a lot of our 2 Pints Deep content, like wordplay and stuff, ways you'd speak to your mate, like that's like the banter element can come into this like vocabulary and can come into the education piece if you word it right. And I love the creativity that our brand has, and the different ways of looking at it. Like, I think one of my favourites was Oasis last year when they announced, obviously, that they were getting back together. It was around World Suicide Prevention Day, and we thought, how can we use Oasis songs to like reword stuff? And we had such a good time, me and the creative team, coming up with different ways you can talk tonight, or here's your master plan, or make sure you don't look back in anger, like stuff like that is then relatable, and like it's common talk. People are talking about it already that we're able to then share. So the creative side has been something that I've really enjoyed dipping my toe into. As we've got bigger, and since we've become a charity, I've been unable to do as much of it, because there's so much that we need to do across HR, across policies, across everything that's, I guess, less glamorous. But and obviously finance as well. I know my way around an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. But yeah, creative has been something that's unlocked, I think, a side of me that I didn't know was in there.
Yeah. But from the outside looking in, I know that juggling an organisation has so many different hats, but that's something you've got to keep hold of, because that's the thing that makes you stand out. And I think that's the thing that gives it the shareability. And, I was scrolling through some bits earlier, and some of the creative work you do is unbelievable. I think there's one that you ask how people are and they say, I'm fine. But then in the word fine is their message.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not always fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's looking past that initial, like you did at the start of the podcast, looking past the initial, I'm fine. And I'm very lucky, and I think how we're building this charity with our 13 volunteers that we've got at the moment, our largest section of volunteers is creatives, people that want to give back. So we've got about 6 that work for us across different sort of videography all the way through to sort of strategy. And we've got like head of socials for an agency in London that give 2 hours a week to us. And
really,
we've got a copywriter who has worked previously with Disney, who helps us with certain things. Like, if you put time and effort into it and want to give something, these people want to give back, and give something different that maybe they don't get in their 9 to 5s, and gives them the fulfillment. So we will always be creative first. I think that's an element that in the awareness piece makes us stand out for sure. And if we can back that up with deliverables and strategies and events that then can lead into the from awareness to action piece, I think we're set up really nicely, like I said earlier, to be not just a charity but a brand and a movement, to help support the other charities in the space as well.
Yeah. What's been the hardest part?
Entrepreneurship. Just put it as a whole, underline it and put it bold. My God.
Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think I have to. When we talk about what is being driven, I'm driven as an entrepreneur, but the money doesn't come to me. My money is purpose.
Yeah.
And that still makes me an entrepreneur because I'm building something from the ground up. And I think if you don't view yourself as an entrepreneur, you slow down or you rest on laurels. But this is the life, like you said, this is the life we've chosen, that we're like continue to push forward. And the charity sector is so hard to survive in now that you need to almost view it as a business. Otherwise, you're not going to survive or grow, or be able to grow and create impact. So, yeah, but there's so much that comes with it. I'm sure you know loneliness. Like, God, I went from one of the most social industries that you can do in recruitment. You're out every Wednesday, Friday, like but you're always in an office. There's a sales floor. There's a buzz. To on my own in my bedroom, and I could always go to my boss and be like, "What do you think of this?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, great." That reinforcement piece that now you don't get because you've got no colleagues that can be like, "This is really good." Or so it's been a real struggle to believe in myself and support myself over this first 6-8 months that we've been going as an official machine, as you like to call it, maybe. But I know that this is just a period. And if I can get through this period, then we can grow. Then I can have a team. Then maybe we can look at an office, and I can build this to be something that can support me and my problems that I've had, but also the people that we hire in as well. So I know it's a period of time. So I'm kind of just working my way through it. And I went back to therapy this year, and I spoke to them about this and the loneliness and the sometimes lack of self-assurance and lack of belief, and talking through that and giving them being able to give me tools to be able to recognise that and support myself in that has been invaluable as well. So, yeah, for entrepreneurship as a whole, but yeah.
You still feel lonely now?
Yeah. I mean, feeling lonely is different to being lonely, I would say. So you can feel lonely in a room full of your mates, but you aren't
I agree.
lonely because they are there. I think loneliness is kind of a social construct that you're in control of to a certain degree of, if you have the ability to be able to speak up and talk, then you're never alone. But if you don't, you can feel very isolated. And I've struggled really whilst growing something and moving things over the past 6 months and really pushing forward to be present in a lot of situations, which then can give you this feeling of loneliness when times get hard, because I can be sat down and watching something with my partner at night and on Netflix, and my mind's elsewhere, or I'm checking my phone, and then when it comes to the time that I need the most, they're like, "Oh well, we had our time." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that was the time." And unless you create time to feel with someone and part of something and bring them along with you, it's incredibly easy as an entrepreneur to get lonely.
100%. I think that's one thing that I see in entrepreneurs, probably more than anything, is that inability to be present when other people are. I had it literally last night. I was walking around the shopping centre, I'm on my phone doing work, and my girlfriend walked off a little bit in front of me and said, "Well, you was walking slow." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even realise." And I think unless you're in that world, it's really difficult for people to understand that as well, isn't it? And it's not saying they're wrong, because they're not wrong, but that's how we're wired, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how we are.
I think we catastrophize. If I don't deal with this, what will happen? What's the impact? If I'm not there for that email and I don't send that back before the weekend, that's going to, we think 6, 8 moves ahead.
Yeah.
And sometimes the second move we think is wrong, and we take ourselves down a path that never exists, and we're our own worst enemy in that. But I'm trying as much as possible sometimes to take action, to be like, phone turned over, not looking at it.
Yeah, I do that.
To not even to leave it. I don't want to see it brightening up. I don't want to know if I've got text or not. I recently went away on a 3-night trip with a friend and his girlfriend and my partner as well. And I was like, I don't want to look at my phone. I'm not going to check. I took notifications off my emails, and I was like, what's the worst that can happen realistically in 3 days? And I said, put on my out of office and stuff, and said, if it's urgent, you can contact me, and I am contactable. But we look at my phone maybe twice a day. And the first 2 days went well, but then third day you're like, I'm going back to work tomorrow, so let's just get ahead of it. And things creep back in, but you've got to be purposeful with it, and you've got to be deliberate. Otherwise,
100%. Did you find in them 2 days you could switch off?
First 2 days I felt a lot better.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I was taking my mind to different places, and I was allowing it, stupid things. Like, you're on holiday, you know, what lads think about. I'm like castle looks old. Like, imagine there's people putting the stones in stuff. Like I was there though. I was there. Whereas so many times I feel like I'm sat somewhere, but I'm somewhere else in my head. So many times. And I remember listening to Gary Neville's podcast on Diary CEO and thinking, bloody hell, I can't get that bad. Like, that's bad. Like, taking mini breaks or whatever that he said, mini honeymoon type stuff to get himself away. And but I can kind of see it a little bit in how things can eat you up if you let them. And if you let structure slide a little bit, it becomes mayhem.
Yeah.
If you don't structure that time in and, like I said, be deliberate, then it can be mayhem, can't it?
Yeah. I mean, I had a similar thing the other week. We had a deal that we pulled out of, and it'd been quite an overwhelming couple of weeks leading up to that. And I decided it was Friday, well, it's Thursday night, and I decided, look, tomorrow I am not doing any work. I'm going to look after myself. I booked in a massage, went to the gym, went for a walk, like done everything for me. And I was so proud of how disciplined I was. I felt great. Saturday morning, had nothing to do, back on the laptop. And it was just like, don't get me wrong, that day massively helped.
Yeah.
But I just think it's just the pull is just, you're always back to it, aren't you, so quickly? You can never really stick through. Well, I struggle with that anyway.
Yeah.
To stick through with
But I think the best businesses and business leaders build or envision, when we talk about goals at the start, their goal is to build a business that survives without them.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not your goal, then I don't know what, I can't understand any other life than that. Like, you work and you build for freedom in the end. And if you're not planning that into stuff, then you're not doing your job properly. You're not hiring people in the right places that are better than you, that can do better jobs than you. Like, I want people in creative that are so much better than me and think in a different way. I want people in our board of trustees that challenge me in every decision that we make. I want people in our operations that are ruthlessly structured. So when I step away from it, if I step away from it, if something happened and I burnt out for any reason, it goes on.
Yeah. It's that thinking that's going to make this successful for you.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. You can think all you want, though. It's like, you do need an element of luck
Of course,
with everything, don't you?
Yeah, and action.
Yeah.
You can think everything, but you've got to take the action. You've got to find these people. You've got to get them bought into your vision, but you're also very good at that.
Thank you.
So you're doing a lot of talks and stuff like that at the minute as well, and you've done some stuff with some pretty good brands.
Yeah.
What's been your favourite?
Ooh. We did a really good one last year with Canva, which was really cool, in their offices about mental health in tech.
Yeah.
And ran kind of a panel discussion that was really helpful for a lot of people in tech about burnout and imposter syndrome, remote working, all the issues surrounding the tech world that's, I guess, been maximised coming out of COVID. That was a fun one in the offices in London. But when I say most impactful, it's been the ones in construction or engineering in the more, I guess, remote places. I don't want to call them remote, but I've worked with National Grid in their Stoke and Gloucester depots, and it's sometimes 150, 200 men in a room, or male heavy focused in the industry, and some of them don't want to hear it. Some of them just don't want to listen to you, and it's building the resilience to continue talking when you hear these huffs and puffs from the crowd, because it's something that they don't want to hear, because a lot of them are struggling, and they don't want the answers because they think you're trying to force this on me a lot of the time. And men are stubborn in that sense, and those have been the most impactful for me, I think, and most coming away that I think you could really make a difference, because some of the feedback's been great, but the construction industry, I think it's something ridiculous. Like, it's 7 times more likely to die by suicide than other industries in the UK, and it's just rife within an industry that's so male heavy dominated, but also that's so reliant on the body as well. And I've heard lots of stories of builders or tradesmen that have got injured doing their job and come away and just felt without purpose, because all they've known is be able to build or do things and be active, and it can be really difficult to find the balance with that. So I think those kind of construction industries done a lot with Taylor Wimpey recently, which has been brilliant, and the National Grid stuff's been great as well, because I feel like the voices, although it's not always wanting to be heard, it's getting to the people that need to hear it most.
That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
What's, you had I think you said 150 messages in the first year on Instagram. And if someone listening, is struggling a little bit, what would be the most common thing that people would come to you and say that they're sort of feeling, or
that they don't know what to do from where they're feeling more than how they're feeling, I'd say. A lot of people don't understand the way that they're feeling. Say that they come and say, I've got a good job, I've got this. So they're almost telling me that they're angry at themselves for the way that they're feeling a lot of the times, to be like, I shouldn't be feeling like this, but I am. Like, I'm overwhelmed, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't want to burden my friends. It's a common thing that we get through. I don't want them to feel like I have to put my feelings on them. I don't want to burden my family. That type of stuff. So feeling a burden's a common theme as well. But mostly, I don't know where to start with all of it. We always encourage starting with a conversation with someone who gets you. Doesn't have to be your partner or someone dead close. It can be someone that listens and you've maybe had a good conversation with before. Excuse me. And then helping them get to the next point of what actually exists out there, and reaching out for help from people that are trained to help.
Yeah.
2 Pints Deep isn't. It's a place you can come, build confidence, and we can tell you what exists out there. But for example, Samaritans help for people that are struggling, or help people that who have people struggling in their lives as well. So they are there to support people around suicide, not that are suicidal. And people don't want to label themselves sometimes and be like, I don't need to call Samaritans. I'm not stood on the side of a bridge. And that's what people think of that sometimes. But their staff and their volunteers are trained amazingly to help support you in many different situations. And even just a conversation with them can open up a different avenue that you never thought was there, in supporting those around you, but also supporting yourself and giving yourself some tools for change. So yeah, there's so much that exists, but people just don't really know where to start, which...
And perception is massive, isn't it? Because you use the Samaritans as an example, everyone associates them with, I'm feeling deeply suicidal, I need to phone them that, whereas you're saying it's not necessarily like that. But if somebody is feeling, down or depressed or anxious, wherever it may be, and they have identified someone that they should go and talk to, a friend or a colleague, or how should they approach that conversation?
First thing I'd do, and that's helped me, is write it down, because I get to those situations and then I'm like I don't know what to say. I don't know how to convey this message. I don't know what to get across. Like, my head's gone. So I write it down in my phone when I've got something big to tell someone. Yeah, it can sit there for weeks sometimes because I don't get the opportunity. I don't get the right environment. I don't get what I need, but also envisioning what that environment is. What's the ideal environment for you here where you feel comfortable opening up? Is it down the pub? If so, invite them down the pub. Is it going for a walk and doing a lot of shoulder-to-shoulder stuff, which men are statistically more likely to open up shoulder-to-shoulder than face-to-face? So thinking about that, maybe I invite you for a walk, maybe we go for a game of golf, and I'm going to say, while I'm doing it here, what I'm struggling with. But picturing that moment and picturing what it's going to be like, and what's the worst thing that can happen, what's the best thing that can happen, and just walking yourself through it before going into it can help. But there's an element that you can always overthink in those areas as well, and there's an element where you will need to jump at some point and be like, right, I'm going to do it. But the more you can support yourself in giving yourself a script to either read off or remind yourself of how you're feeling, or when you were down, how you were feeling, but also like envisioning the environment. Where am I going to be? what's it going to be like, and also the person. So when you get there, it's not overwhelming. So I'd say 3 things there in terms of write it down. What's the environment that you want to or feel comfortable in to be able to have this conversation, and who's the person? Might not be the most obvious one in your life, but thinking, right, okay, this person might get me to the next response or the next bit. And I think that one thing within conversations that can be promoted at the start of that is be like, figuring out whether you want an answer or you just want to be heard, and tell them that at the start of the conversation. By the way, I don't want an answer here. I don't want you to try and fix this. I just want you to listen, or I really need you to help me out and try and fix this for me. So I think being deliberate in those elements of conversation of what the actions you want, because especially as blokes, I think we go immediately to try and fix things.
Yeah.
We're like, right, okay, well, if I did this, and it's like, no, like, just listen for now. So those elements, I think, can.
Thank you for sharing that, because if anyone is listening, I really hope they take that advice on board. It's simple but really effective, and people sometimes they don't know where to start, do they? Mm-hmm. So I think that's really helpful. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to do one last thing before we wrap up. But you recently fundraised at festival. I think you said 25,000 people.
25,000 people. Justin Timberlake headlining, so it was good to see him bringing Sexy back and all that.
Yeah. Did you meet him or?
Oh, I didn't meet him, unfortunately, no. But we actually ran a beer mat campaign in the local pubs around the festival to like reinvent his lyrics. Mm-hmm. So we had we're bringing talking back instead of sexy back. And we had It's Okay to Cry Me a River, stuff like that. So it was nice to see then people recognise those songs and then go and watch them perform live, for sure.
Yeah, that's unreal. So how did that come about?
We actually applied.
Okay.
So we applied to be a charity partner for Lytham Festival, and it was quite a poignant one for me because I'm a local lad in that area. It's up in Lancashire, and told our story in the application process, and thankfully they chose us and 4 other amazing local charities as well. Okay. They all got a night each. Unfortunately, 2 nights were cancelled due to weather and a band pulling out. So we were lucky that ours still went ahead on the Saturday. But grateful to just get our brand and our stuff in front of so many people. It's our first major event, and we managed to raise £2,500 as well on the night, just to continue the work that we're doing. So yeah, really amazing to see people. 32 volunteers we had on the day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
In our branding on the big screens on the big stage, and it was just a bit of a pinch me moment for me.
So it must have felt quite surreal.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
And is the plan to do more stuff like that moving forward? Yeah,
like I said before, we're going to come to places that people gather and feel comfortable or feel like there's an escape. So festivals are a big part of that. We have a few plans at how we can do this in a few different styles, a few different types of events that we can do. But I'm hoping that people listening and whatnot will be able to see us creatively come into these areas where people are gathering and see more of us in the future, for sure.
And did anyone open up? Anyone there?
We had loads.
Really?
It was frightening. People that are still going through it, people that have been through it in the past, people that had followed the page since the birth, so 3 years, and came up and just wanted to meet people that were working there and be like, I've followed this page for 3 years. And it was an amazing amount of people that interacted with us on the day in so many different elements of vulnerability and emotion. But it was a real kind of motivator for me to be like, only takes is, we started it. So one of those people, if you've affected them and helped keep them here, then you're doing the right thing here. So that's the motivation, if any, but it was amazing to see the response.
100%. I could imagine that just feeling's unbelievable.
Yeah.
At the end of each episode, we ask each guest to give 3 pieces of actionable advice to our listeners. And that can be for them to implement their life, their business, whatever it may be. So what would your 3 things be?
I'm going to obviously go down the mental health route a little bit again. And I think there's 3 questions you can ask people around you, staff, people in your teams, to help understand their behaviours, to know whether or when you need to support them if they are struggling. And it's really simple. It's from a psychotherapist, so it's not actually myself, that is educational backed. First question is like, what are your stress triggers? So this can be done in sort of a friendship circle down the pub. It can also be done in sort of quarterly one-to-ones, monthly one-to-ones. Understanding like, when do my people, my mates, people in my team, my employees get stressed? Is it when work's really tough? Is it when the football season's on? Like, is it when it gets to around Christmas because there's a family like influence? Like, what makes you stressed in life? Understanding that about the people around you. Number 2 is, what do you do when you're stressed? Do you drink more? I need to keep an eye out for that. Like, how do you act when you are stressed? If I miss the triggers or I don't know what's going on in your life, how can I know that things aren't quite right? Do you drink more? Do you drink less? Do you struggle to sleep? Do you turn up late to things? Like, do you work through your lunch? Do you not eat as much? Do you eat more? How do I know to think about this when you're stressed? And then number 3 is then, okay, I've heard a time that you're stressed. I know that's a trigger for you. I've seen the action that's come from it. How do you want me to act in those situations? Do you want me to take you for a coffee? Do you want me to just send you a message and say, let's meet up? Do you want me to take you for a game of golf? As a mate or as a colleague or as a boss, how do you want me to support you in these actions? And that gives you a bit of a framework to work off and ticks a box for you to know that you are outwardly trying to support those around you. So 3 little questions: stress triggers, actions, so what type of things that you show when you are stressed, or responses, and then action in terms of like how you want me to act to support you in those areas.
Yeah, I love that. I think very simple but very effective, but also very underutilised. Definitely something I'll be taking. So thank you for that.
No worries.
And where do people, where do they keep track of your journey?
Yeah, so I'd say Instagram's our most used social media, and we are 2 Pints Deep spelled out, so no numbers. But we are on other social media as well. And then if you want to get to know us a little bit more in terms of the story and the background and what we're doing, our website, so www.twopintsdeep.com, again, all spelled out. And then following my personal journey, you're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn if any LinkedIn warriors out there who want to give it a little connect. So that's where you can find us, really.
Lovely. Well, I hope everyone does, because what you're doing is amazing. I think the creative, the message, everything you're doing is so good. I've really enjoyed the journey and looking forward to seeing what you're going to do. But thanks for coming on Driven Podcast, Luke.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you for tuning into the Driven Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment to let us know what you found most insightful. But most importantly, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next episode.